This is Gorges, G-O-R-G-E-S. Say it again for me, sir.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous, thank you, sir. Would you like to say it or you want me to say it?
No, I'll do it.
Go for it. There's a microphone coming to you right there, sir.
Congressman, I believe it was during the deliberations and the opinion writing of Roe versus Wade that the Supreme Court found a right to
It's a
privacy
new creation, right?
in the Constitution. Since the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, how do you justify denying law-abiding citizens their privacy by supporting this broad-scale NSA surveillance?
I don't support it, and no, I did not vote for it. You may be referring to the Amos Amendment that was a part of the defense piece. Is that what you're referring to?
Part of it, sure.
Okay. That's the only vote that's been taken on this at all. Here's the problem. That particular amendment, the issue is really in the intelligence side. The intelligence authorization bill that comes up dealing with the NSA will come up in the fall. That's the right spot to deal with this, so we can really deal with the program in the right way. That particular amendment did two things. One of them is it did a moratorium on that program from October the 1st of this year until September 30th of next year. It didn't stop the program, it did a short moratorium. The second thing it did is it had an instruction from the legislative branch to the judicial branch that in every order they had to have language that we created. Now, I hate to tell you, you can't do that. That's unconstitutional. The legislative branch can't tell the judicial branch how to write their orders, just like the judicial branch can't tell the legislative branch what bills we have to pass. There's separation of powers with that. So in an effort to protect our Constitution, an amendment was written that was not constitutional. The ends don't justify the means. We have to do the right thing the right way. And I know I've taken a lot of flack for standing for the Constitution on that, but we can't say I'm going to protect the Constitution while I deny it. So you can't do that. Read through the text of the actual amendment.
Why did you vote for the other bill?
So wait, sir, hold on. Read through the text of the actual amendment. That amendment dealt with that order. We can't do that. So here's what I'm focused in on, and was in a meeting as recently as 2 weeks ago. The last week we were in D.C. trying to deal with how do we resolve this, because there are major issues with NSA. Here's a lot of the reporting that's coming out of it. So let me say this to you. Here's what they did, because I've read a lot of the reporting online. I've been through 5 classified briefings on this with very high-ranking folks, and we've asked very difficult questions, some of those with Justin. But we have gone through this process trying to figure out what has occurred, what has not occurred. Here's what we know has occurred. They have collected a list of phone calls that were made from every American, from every provider. And what they've done is they've gone to the providers, AT&T, Verizon, whoever it may be, collected the phone numbers with no names. The phone number, who the phone number called, the duration of the call, and the date of the call. So that's what they collected. They put this in a big master database, no names, put it and locked it up. To access that, they have to have a court order to be able to access that. And here's what they did. If they pick up a phone off of a terrorist in Afghanistan, let's say, for instance, and they determined that on this phone, they were calling American numbers, they went back and could search that database to be able to determine who were they calling and how long were they calling and who else were they calling to see if there was a web that was connected to that. But that's been used 54 times to be able to interrupt 54 different terrorist plots here in the United States that had originated from overseas in the past 8 years. That's documented. That's part of our challenge with this. At the same time, we've got issues like Major Nadal Hassan, who was communicating with a known terrorist overseas, and we didn't catch him. And I've had lots of folks say to me, how could that happen, that he's communicating with this guy overseas, and we didn't catch him? Well, it's the flip side of this whole thing that's happening with the phone record side. So when it breaks out and happens, people say, how come we didn't catch it? When we do catch it and shut down, people say, how can we deal with our privacy? I agree with both, by the way. We've got to be able to protect our privacy. We do not sacrifice our liberties for the sake of additional security on it. We can't do that. So we've got to find ways to be able to protect us and to make sure they're constitutionally
Where's the
consistent.
DEA and the IRS
So-
getting their information from the
Sir,
NSA?
sorry, I only deal with questions that are being drawn. That's respect for everyone. So that's what we're trying to do. Is that straightforward enough?
So far, we haven't
So
done
that's why this is not a finished product. That single amendment is not the big amendment, or not the big bill to try to resolve the whole thing. That was a vote dealing with the appropriations piece that only did a short-term moratorium that did have serious constitutional concerns. You're giving me this look like I'm not sure.
Transcript, not your answer to analyze that.
I tell you what we can do. I wrote a letter personally, following up the folks that did this. I can get you the letter that has all the details on it, and you can actually go to that Thomas website and see the actual amendment. The amendment's fairly short, and you get a chance to see the actual amendment, so you can see the text and see the same thing I'm seeing on that. Would that be fair? You should check with one of our staff, and we'll make sure that we get them to you. And for anyone else on that wants all the details and the facts, check with us, and we'll be glad to be able to get you all that background information since we're done. There you go. Robert Siemens. Where, Robert? Yes, sir. You want to read it, or you want me to say it? Or you want to say it, or you want me to read it?
I'll say it, Congressman. I pay a lot of attention to the New American Freedom Index because I'm always interested in how my legislator is voting as weighed against the Constitution. They currently have you in your total for 2 terms, I think at around 70% voting with the Constitution. Tom Cole is about 56%. So you're a lot better than Tom Cole, but Jim Bridenstine's 100%. I would like for you to go hang out with Jim Bridenstine a lot.
Yes, sir. Do you happen to know what the votes are? Robert, do you happen to know what the votes are that they picked for that?
It's all available in newamerican.com, I think it is.
Thanks. Here's why I say that. It's always interesting to me, the votes they picked and the interpretation of those. I've been in several of those key voting times, and I see all the indexes. Everybody's got their own index. They're all over the place on it. And I'm always interested in the reasons why and what they do with it. And so, for instance, I don't know if this piece with the NSA is suddenly a vote against the Constitution. I'm going to have to vote to redefine
Yes, it is.
What it is.
Yes, it is.
I'd be interested in how I'm protecting the Constitution by violating on rules like that.
You're not violating anything. Stick to the Constitution,
Violating
pal.
our rights.
That's it.
If there's some perception that I'm supportive of the NSA policy,
Yes.
Then why didn't you end it?
Why did you vote for the Patriot Act?
I'm not going to deal with questions that are just shouted out.
Yeah, right. Don't deal with it.
Harry B. Wright. Is it Tony Samani? S-A-M-A-N-I-E? Yes, ma'am. Hey there.
Hi. Well, my first question on there was, obviously we have a lot of disagreement here. We're very upset
On what's up?
on everything. The way the government has ruined our lives. We're for limited government, restoring the Constitution. And basically, one of the things I wanted to know was on the, Justin Amash said the Intelligence Committee withheld key files before critical NSA vote. Amash claims. How do you address that when our own representatives are calling foul and it's being ignored by the people of the status quo? We're tired of the status quo.
By the way, I agree with Justin on that. Because here's what happened. They sent, the NSA sent a letter to, a classified letter to us to notify us of how they were handling this. That we were never signaled to our office or any other office other than members of the Intelligence Committee. They were the only ones that were notified of that. But that letter was not written to the Intelligence Committee. It was written to all members of Congress. So Justin's absolutely correct on that point. We did have information withheld from us. There are major issues on this. My point is, there's a right way to fix it, and there's a wrong way to fix it. I want to fix it the right way, and I want to make sure that it's actually fixed.
Stick to the
So
Constitution.
that's my point. Well, let me give you several. One of them is, why are we collecting this information? The actual phone companies already have that information. Why are we just asking the phone companies hang on to it? And if we have to get a court order to come back to it, that's no different than what a current court order is now. There's also no citizen advocate that's involved in this process. There's a FISA court that's involved in it that no one has access to other than the intelligence committees. There's no citizen advocate that represents me. There's no reason the government should have my mom's phone records to be able to pull that and not have someone actually speaking out for my mom if no one else has access to that. My mom is not a terrorist.
That's right.
That amendment did not fix that. That amendment did a 12-month moratorium on it and had a challenge with the Constitution about mandating another branch of government to have an order on it. There's a way to fix it, that we should fix it. But in the middle of this, here's our challenge. 2 months after we go through this, if we've got a group of dead Americans because of a phone call that came in that we should have tracked, we lost all of ours.
I'll take my chances.
That wouldn't work.
Yeah, we'll take our chances.
Hey, you got a group of dead Americans in Benghazi.
Scared. That's how our rights get taken away. It's the same thing that Hitler used in Germany. Take away the guns, take away everything.
I wouldn't do either. I'm
But
not
it's
trying to
happening.
scare.
That's the thing, Congressman.
I'm
It's
trying to say that is a reality and we know it. That if that event ever comes, and God forbid it does.
Lightning is more
Sir?
dangerous than a terrorist.
Sir, let's just, can we ask more questions there? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, something softer, easier to answer.
Jerry Ruth. Okay, Dax Imbank.
Right here.
Hey! Yes, sir.
You mentioned that the NSA, I got a letter from you regarding the NSA program.
Okay.
And you claimed that they weren't collecting anything that you couldn't find in a phone book. Basically, that's what.
No, I didn't put that in my letter. Michelle Hoffman has that out personally, but I did not put that in my letter.
Initial reports led Americans to believe that the NSA keeps the contents of each call as well, but that information has proven to be completely false.
That is in my letter.
Okay. It's not completely false. The DEA and the IRS have just been found that they are getting information from the NSA as to tips to bust domestic criminals, and then they are taught to do what's called a parallel investigation where they cover up how they got the information. So the DEA and the IRS are getting information from the NSA and using it to frame American citizens and then lying about where they got the information, Congressman. This is what is happening. Now, what happens if the government becomes politically against my belief system or my lifestyle?
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah.
The NSA gives a tip to some jackbooted thug who doesn't care about me or my family and will kick my door down for the fun of it. And they've done it. They've done it. And I want it to stop. That's why I'm so angry. That's why I don't accept this idea. I do not accept this idea that we need to wait for 2 years when you guys figure out what to do. It needs to end now.
Yeah.
And then you figure out what to do.
Read the Fourth Amendment, all of it.
You got no right.
No, I've
The
been.
DEA and the IRS address that particular issue.
Here's what I'd like to do. I saw some internet reports from that as well.
Don't tell me it's not true. I mean, everything that I bring up, you say, well, it's just not true. Everything that anybody brings up, you say it's just not true. And then you say it's classified.
I'm not going to say it's classified. I'm going to tell you, I've sat in multiple classified briefings. We've gone through with multiple folks with NSA to find out what they have, what they don't have, what they do, what they don't do.
They lie.
They're telling you the truth.
Robert lied before Congress.
That's what I was about to say. There's no way that I'm going to convince you very upset about this. And if that was happening, I'd be just as ticked off as well.
But you can do it. You are in charge of the purse strings. Congress is in charge, and we were 16 votes away from taking away their funding.
And where'd you vote?
Next question.
That's assuming Harry Reid's going to pick that up and is going to run that? You think Harry Reid was going to run with that?
Well, then shut the government down because you guys don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give us all. Give us all.
Don't call my name.